Good morning, Delmarva, and welcome to Coastal A&E. I'm your host, Michael Sprouse, and we're broadcasting live from the incredible Browseabout Books, located at 133 Rehoboth Avenue in the heart of downtown Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. For the next couple of hours, you are in the House of Sprouse, and we're going to take a jump into the creative side of the surf. And, of course, you can check out our live video stream of this entire broadcast. It's happening live this very minute on our Facebook page at facebook.com/CoastalAE. All of this is possible thanks to our amazing sponsors, the residences of Lighthouse Cove Dewey Beach, Cuvée Ray Wine Bar and Restaurant, and Charles Messina Plumbing, Electric and HVAC, and Sprouse Thomas and Real Estate Associates. I am thrilled to be here at Browseabout Books. This is our first time broadcasting live. I got two great guests. I have Tony Boyd-Heron and Sara Pavlik, fiber artist, Peninsula Gallery owner. Good morning. How are you guys? I'm glad. Are you actually talking into your microphone? Because I'm not hearing you. I'm really happy that you guys are here to sort of kick this off. This is an exciting thing. It's our first time doing a live broadcast here from Browseabout Books, and I think it's going to be really, really fun.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, good. So, Sara, you're a fiber artist, and you have a group show that's opening next week at the Peninsula Gallery.
Actually, opens today, Michael.
Oh, today.
But because it's Kentucky Derby Day, we elected to have the reception to meet the artists next Saturday.
Oh, I see. Well, so Sara, you had mentioned that to me before because you said that it was hard to compete with Kentucky Derby Day. Is that correct?
Too many parties going on, Michael.
Which was surprising me because we're in Delaware. I mean, I was raised in Kentucky, and that was the big thing, the Derby Day parties. And now I'm starting to, they're sort of becoming a thing here now. I think people are sort of getting into that whole process of like betting on the horses and making mint juleps, which sounds like fun. I'm still not sure how to make those, though, properly.
We don't need much reason to party.
Yeah, that's all right, especially in Lewes. So how many artists are going to be in this exhibit that you're having there, Tony?
There's four.
Four artists, and they're all fiber artists.
They are all fiber artists, and Sara actually curated the whole show.
Really? Congratulations. That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
So for people that aren't familiar with the term fiber art, how would you explain that to them?
Well, in this particular show, all the artists are actually quilt artists. Sometimes fiber artists go beyond quilt making to use fabric or other fiber elements in a type of collage of quilt art. These are all art quilts, per se. And the artists that are showing are Julia Graziano, Anne Hammond, Marina Bowden, and myself.
Well, so I'm very familiar with your work, which I think is incredible. We're fortunate enough to actually have a piece of your work.
Thank you.
In our own little collection in our house. And we have some of it here. So I know if you're on our Facebook Live, you can actually see examples of this work here behind us. But they're very colorful. And would you say that these are contemporary designs that you're using in your
Yes,
work?
they're original designs. Quilt artists work they work making quilts in somewhat of a traditional way. However, each piece is cut individually so that each shape is different, and the artist is composing the piece. They're all original compositions.
Wow. So, and as we have said before, because Tony, you've been on the show many times, which is great because I could just have you sit here and like read a menu and everybody, because you have this brilliant British voice, which we'll go into more in a little bit.
And
not
I
necessarily
just come back from England from refresher training.
Oh, that's right.
So,
you have a fresh course on how to speak properly. Because there's an event going on in Lewes today, which, we want to talk about the British Motor Car Show was
British
today.
Car Show, yeah.
Very exciting, and you're involved in that.
Actually, the gallery is a sponsor of that.
Fantastic.
So, when I leave here, I have to hot-foot it over there before I go back
jump
to work
into
in the gallery.
a little British sports car.
Yeah.
And sort of spin around downtown Lewes.
But that's at the ferry terminal.
The ferry terminal, that's right. But they do the parade, which is nice.
They do a parade along 2nd Street, and many years ago, when I was associated with it, I would be the one who would talk about each car as it came to the spot where it received an award of some sort. But I found that I didn't know as much about the cars as Mike Tyler, who organizes the show. So in the end, he took that job over from me.
Oh, well, Mike is great. I actually had him on my other radio show Monday night. We talked about it. It's a very interesting history there. So that's a lot of fun. One of the many things going on in the area. But I just put a link to the Peninsula Gallery website on our Facebook stream, because you put photos of all the works in the exhibit on your website.
That's correct.
That's so anyone that's interested in what fiber art is can go here and just sort of check it out.
Yep.
And get a preview of what's going to be coming up at the opening next Saturday.
From 5 to 7
No,
p.m. Next.
it is the reception for
reception.
the artists next Saturday. The show officially opened at 10 o'clock this morning.
10 o'clock this morning. But that's normally, it would be, if it weren't for the Kentucky Derby, the opening would be tonight.
Correct.
So we should have to get that clear, because clearly I'm a little confused about it. But you've made it very clear that the reception is next Saturday. It's open now. So anyone could go down there today
Anybody
and see
can,
the show.
and we had several people in yesterday. I mean, Sara and I and a team of helpers hung the show yesterday. Thursday.
Yes,
Thursday. And so it was all hanging by the end of the day, labeled and all the rest of it.
Nice.
And people were drifting in yesterday to take a look.
Well, I know that you hang all the exhibits in the gallery, which you do every month. Was there more of a challenge in hanging fiber art, because this is the first? Is it the first fiber art exhibit of this nature that you've had this series?
It's the first full fiber art show I think that we've ever had while we've been owners of the gallery.
The owner that was in your
Yeah.
interim period, he had a fiber art
Right.
show.
So that was a few years ago. So I thought it was time for us to do one. And knowing Sara, living in Lewes and a really great fiber artist herself, I thought, well, I don't know enough about fiber art to go and gather artists to produce a show. So I asked Sara to curate it and find the other artists, which she did and has done a really fabulous job.
Thank you, Tony.
They're really incredible works, and I'm on the page right now. Again, if you go to the website, peninsula-gallery.com, and you can click on Preview Exhibit, and you have images of every single piece that's in this show. They're very colorful, and they're very abstract, which is something that I like quite a bit. And it's also not something that you normally feature in your
Correct.
gallery. So
That's
this is
correct.
outside of the safety zone for you, right?
Let me get back for a minute to hanging the show, because
yes,
you asked
yeah.
me whether it was a challenge.
Correct, yeah.
It really wasn't a challenge in most ways, but it was a challenge because I'm used to hanging the show on my own. And this was like hanging by committee.
Oh no! So how many people were there? It was you and Sara and
Sara's husband, Rob.
Oh, and Rob, he's over
And
there.
then we had another helper who lives on your street, Marilyn Nugent.
And
Interesting.
Maryland is a glass artist, of course.
Right.
Oh, sure.
And then
Yeah.
Molly, who works for me, she was in it
That
too.
is a
so-
committee. I don't know if I would have been. That would have been a little intimidating to have been in that room. How long? How many? Like 12 hours later, the show is. How long did it take to get
actually
there?
went
It went pretty
pretty
quickly
well.
because we started just after 10, and I guess we finished. Well, we took a break for lunch, and then we finished about 2 o'clock.
Yeah, a little bit before. I think.
Yeah.
And what we did was we laid the pieces out along the floor, along the sides of the gallery for size purposes, and hung larger pieces first. And there are some quite large pieces in the show. Some are 70 inches wide by 70 inches tall. And then there's some pieces that are smaller. So we laid them out and then moved them around a little bit depending on color and size and composition. And then we just had to make sure they were level, which is sometimes of a challenge with quilt art, and hung them up, and it really looks wonderful. It was very...
Making sure it was level was pretty interesting because we actually put a level on the first piece, and after that we eyeballed
Like,
it.
oh no, this is straight. We're good.
But we
Hang on
were
the next
doing a
one.
lot of up on this side, down on that side, too far over this way, that way. But it is filled with color. The gallery
Oh,
is
my
filled
God.
with very bright, vibrant color. Many of the artists, including myself, hand dye their own fabrics to achieve very dense color. And,
Wow.
so when you walk in, it's actually a very moving experience for me, especially because I've made some of the pieces, but also
And you
just-
curated this show.
Yes, I'm familiar with the three artists, and so I reached out to them because I thought they may be interested, and all three of them were very interested. And they're all very accomplished artists. Two of them have gotten pieces into Quilt National, which is the most competitive art quilt competition in the world. Actually, people compete from all over the world for a spot in Quilt National, and two of them are Quilt National artists. And the other has exhibited throughout the country as well. So it can be it's a whole nother world, quilt art, but there are some very competitive competitions, and these artists are at the forefront of that.
So, and as you said, these are all quilts that are in the exhibit?
The quilts that are in the exhibit are not Quilt National pieces, but the artists have competed.
Yeah, but this show that's open now and with the reception next Saturday, I have to get that right, these are quilts, correct?
They're all quilts.
Okay, fantastic. So, but they're not probably the type of quilts. I mean, a lot of people think that aren't familiar with them. When they think of a quilt, they think of some lovely thing their grandmother made, and you throw it on the guest bed. This, there's a lot of artistic thought, depth, balance, color choice. There's a lot behind these. These are fine art quilts.
Yes. So the process of making these particular quilts usually starts with a motif or configuration of shapes that one might make out of black and white fabrics, for example. And so one would take those configuration of shapes, you put them on your design wall, you move them around until a pleasing composition occurs, and then you may move to color. And so you may create different combinations of shapes or different blocks with new shapes in them that are original to that artist. So using a design wall, up and down a ladder oftentimes, you're placing these shapes on your wall, taking them down, sewing them together, putting them back up, moving them around, possibly cutting them down again. You use a rotary cutter similar to a traditional quilter, but that rotary cutter becomes like an extension of your hand, like a painter would use a brush,
okay.
or you would use a pencil. So you're moving that rotary cutter on your mat, cutting your fabric in individual shapes that are pleasing to you. And when you stand back and look at them, provide for movement in the piece. You're always looking for a piece that allows your eye to move around and around, so you never tire of looking at that piece. So in traditional quilt making, you're cutting shapes and blocks to typically be all the same size, or you're creating a lot of repetition. And whereas there might be repetition in these art quilts, the shapes and the lines are individual to that artist. And then after you have the whole piece together, then the quilting process, the actual quilting process begins, where you layer the top of the quilt and then the batting and the back of the quilt, and then you put it, within your machine, and then you create lines all over the top of that piece. And each of these quilts have been quilted by the artists themselves.
Wow. And the other thing that you said that you're doing differently is you're hand dyeing these materials.
Yes.
This isn't like, here's a cool old shirt that that I found in the bottom of the trunk. I'm going to make it in my quilt. You're selecting the colors, and then do you base the shapes based upon the hues, the colors, or do they just sort of happen organically?
It tends to happen organically, but sometimes you give yourself rules to follow. So you may be trying to choose warm hues and cool hues and of the same color. Trying to use them together in an interesting manner, in a way that just makes for a visually interesting piece, something that's original there again. Some of the artists, like there's one piece that's black and white solely. I do like to work in black and white also. Sometimes I'll make a quilt first in black and white or with neutral tones, and then I'll vary it and make it again in brighter tones. That kind of thing.
Wow. And I haven't seen this exhibit yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. I can't remember any other similar experience, gallery experience, that has had really this type of large-scale quilt, fine art quilts that I'm familiar with in the area. Have there been anything like that in the past?
Well, the show that was at the Peninsula, but under the interim owner of the Peninsula Gallery, there were quilts in that exhibit. However, they were not as large of pieces as we have in this exhibit. These pieces are quite large, but there are small pieces as well, all price points as well. But there's some that have, probably taken weeks and weeks of work.
Wow.
to create.
Wow.
It is a pretty laborious process. I don't know if everyone always understands. There's the whole the original composition that occurs. That's one step, and then the next step is sewing these pieces together like the original composition has been laid out, which can be tricky because you have a seam allowance that has to go behind that piece. So sometimes shapes change, and if you don't want them to change, you have to recut them to allow for that seam allowance. So the process technically can be quite demanding.
Wow.
It's not sitting down at your machine and not moving for hours. You are up, down, continually putting new configurations on your design wall, taking them back to your machine and adding more, putting them back. And then once that whole composition is done, laying it out to be quilted, that's
a lot of physical work in that.
It's a lot of physical work. I am up
you
and
have your
down
little
a ladder.
workout video, and quilting, the same. It's a new career move for you.
One thing I also want to mention is the 4 artists, including myself, we have all studied under Nancy Crow. Mm-hmm. And Nancy Crow is a quilt artist in her 70s, and she is one of the quilt artists responsible for recognizing quilts as art back in the 1970s and 80s. And she has a barn near Columbus, Ohio, out on a farm, and she has created a fabulous studio space for artists to come and work. And she teaches classes there and workshops.
Yeah,
and
you've had classes with us, so she's sort of an icon in the fine art quilt world.
Definitely an icon, a force of nature, and she has just received the Renwick Alliance Award for a lifetime of work as an art quilter and as a teacher. And she draws people from all over the world to come and work with her. I've been studying with her since about 2005, and I've gone to her barn, I think, 6 times. In the fall, I'll be going again for 4 weeks. So it's an awesome experience, but it's very demanding. She will give us compositional exercises, and she gives us a time limit in which we have to create pieces, and they're all different. And it's just it's an amazing experience. It's actually very emotional too, because it's so demanding physically as well as emotionally in terms of trying to create interesting figure ground relationships and compositions that are unique to yourself.
So when you're thinking about these designs and the material and that's involved with them, have you ever had material that had some special connection to you that you wanted to incorporate into a work that you're like, oh, this, I don't know, this was my baby's blanket or something of that nature? Or is that something that happens? Or with the fine art quilting, is it really just, these are the colors and patterns and the texture that I need to make this vision complete?
The second part of what you said, typically.
Which I don't remember what I just now get.
Well, just that when I do make traditional quilts as well, and so sometimes if I'm making a traditional quilt, I will do that kind of thing where I'll incorporate, like I recently made 2 quilts for a man who lost his wife 4 years ago, and he was unable to part with her clothing, and so I worked with another friend, and we took her clothing and made it into a quilt and incorporated actually animal figures because she had worked in the Peace Corps. So we had taken parts of her clothing and recreated them into a quilt that her children, who will never know her, will be able to cuddle up with.
Wow.
So
there's a strong emotional connection then in these pieces.
Yes, in those pieces that I made. Quilts, because they're were originally created for comfort and utilitarian. There's so many different aspects to them. Even though these quilts are created as pieces of art for the wall, we all have kind of an emotional connection to the tradition of quilt making and to the pieces being fiber and something for comfort.
Wow. So Tony, when people are going to walk in and see this exhibit, what's the big difference that they're going to see for the first time? Because, people are used to seeing work, and you have a very particular type of work that you like to focus on and have for many years. This is very different. So when they're walking in, what can they expect?
Color. The color is extraordinary. I don't think I've ever had so much color in the exhibition space in one exhibition.
Wow. That's going to be, the photos alone look pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I can't imagine just walking the room and seeing them all
Right.
together. And I would imagine when you're hanging the show, everything does sort of work together. I know you're very selective about the way that works flow with each other, even though they're from different artists. Was that an element of this exhibit as well?
Perhaps less so in this instance because there were some pieces that could only hang in certain places because of their size. So that kind of dictated, and we really didn't look terribly closely at whether one piece should hang next to another because of the colors working together. It was dictated by, well, this piece can only hang here, that piece can only hang there.
In the end, we moved a few pieces around.
We did move a
due
few
to
pieces
color,
around, yeah.
But I think all the pieces do work together quite nicely.
Well, there's no reason why they shouldn't. I think the other thing, Michael, is that usually when we have paintings in a show, you view them by standing back. And yes, you need to view the quilts by standing back too, but you also need to get up close and personal with them just to see the amount of detail and the amount of work that is in them.
Yeah, I remember when I've seen your work. We actually have some of your work behind us. If you can see it, perhaps on our Facebook live stream, they are very detailed. You're not just sort of sewing together something so it stays together. You're carefully selecting and creating patterns with is it the threading that you're using?
Right. Well, so, we think of quilts just in a general term as, piece, like a blanket, but, there's the piecing process. That's one part of the design process. And then, as I was speaking about earlier, the actual quilting process is another part of the design process. And all of the quilt artists in this show do very densely quilted pieces. We all have machines that that are workhorses, basically, and that we quilt our pieces, even though they are machine quilted, and some people feel that, oh, well, those aren't hand quilted. Well, the amount of work we are trying to produce, it would be impossible to hand quilt these pieces, but also they are very densely quilting. And some of the pieces in the show, the quilting really helps the piece stand out and, adds a whole nother layer of texture and interest. That is pretty phenomenal, I think.
I agree.
How did you get involved in fiber art? 'Cause I know you've painted as well. Are you still painting? Or is it
I
mostly,
still paint. Yeah. Painting's kind of for fun, but I actually, it was kind of emotional for me because we have a son who's handicapped, and it was very stressful taking care of him and not knowing what would happen with his life. And so about 20 years ago, some women invited me to be part of a block of the month kind of thing at a quilt shop. And at first I didn't think I would be interested, but I decided to do it. And so I began as a traditional quilter, and it actually took me to a world that I had never experienced. I love the construction process. I love the tools. I love touching the fabric. I love cutting pieces of fabric up and then sewing them back together again. And it allowed me an outlet to deal with some of the anxiety and stress and depression that I felt, with us raising this child.
So, in fact, I think, that's music that you guys can't hear, but I can because I have headsets on. Means we're going to our first half-hour break. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be back. I got several other guests that stepped in here to the studio, including a really cool-looking dude with a cowboy hat and a guitar. So we're going to be back in a little bit. I'm here with Michael Sprouse. You're on Coastal A&E. Come back. We have like a 5-minute break. Are we still streaming? Because I lost internet connection. So should this be on your end? Because I don't know. I don't see what's going on here. Okay. Did it break during our broadcast? Oh, okay. Oh. No, my concern was that. But I guess my point is, are we still streaming? And were we streaming the whole time?
Yep.
Okay. Even though it wasn't here, I don't care if I don't necessarily see it.
Yeah, all it is just your.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Computer won't pass.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
No, you've been on the whole time.
Lost our mic. Okay. Is Billy on? Can you hear me?
I'm not sure. What, do you need to talk to him or?
I need to figure out how much time we have before we go back.
You have his number?
Yeah, but for some reason my phone's on airplane mode.
Okay, I'm gonna text him. He can cue us in our ear.
That is so funny.
It is?
So,
Why am I on airplane mode? And how do I get off of it?
So that's how we met, and then we're like, we just kind of
Yes.
connected, and so then we
Yeah, or every
we met for
15
dinner
minutes,
in
if you can
town
remember.
once, and then they came to dinner at our house. We went to dinner at their house, and then she asked me to be part of a book club. So it's kind of funny, and we just met 9 months ago or so.
How much of a
Well, we met in the exercise class.
30 second?
Yeah, how much time do we have right
very
now?
friendly.
For some reason I can't.
She is very friendly.
And have you met her husband? Yes, he's such a doll. He's such a doll. Was I too wordy?
No, no.
You guys are really good. So we're gonna come back.
This will be the press for the show. If we can get it straight. Are you gonna put a sign on the door tonight? We're at the Kentucky Derby.
Okay. Bobby, here's how it's gonna happen. So we're gonna come back in about 3 minutes. I'm gonna have Steve on a little bit over here, and we're gonna talk for a little bit, about 5 minutes, if that's okay. Excellent. And then I'm getting a call coming in 11:45, but you and I can probably talk a little before that, maybe after that, and then we're gonna go into our Facebook stream.
go
and then
there?
if you,
Go there, right?
could maybe
Have you been there?
something, that'd be great.
Rob
Thank
went
you. I
once.
appreciate you coming
I
in.
refuse to pay that much money for a glass of wine.
Well, you know what? Rob went once and was half price appetizers.
I don't know
and he
why,
got
but
a,
my phone, I don't know what's going on. It's saying
those
it's
little
on
round pieces of fish. What are they called?
airplane mode for cellular.
Scallops.
I have no idea how
So he
that happened. Do you have
ordered
any idea how I take that off?
appetizer
Because I can't
scallops.
text
It
anybody.
was one.
Do you know how to pull up your menu?
And Rob, and it was like,
Yeah.
Rob was like, no.
I really like scallops.
I can't eat them. I'm allergic. Actually, Rob
Okay,
likes
there it is. Thank you. I have no idea how that happened. So that's why I wasn't able to text
We
him.
like Nishi's. I'll have to.
That's our favorite restaurant.
Oh, really? Yeah, we've been there a few times.
This one likes so much as this one.
So, and we're still streaming here, right?
And it's good,
All right.
interesting
Thank
food.
you. Are we hot or no? Okay.
You know Nancy's a tap dancer, too. Did you know Nancy's a tap dancer?
I knew she was a dancer. I wasn't sure that I knew it was tap.
Sarah, thank you for coming down here, by the way. All right, I'll give you. I want to give you a shout out. Sarah's phenomenal, everybody. This is Sarah Gilmore. She's great.
Are these cameras on permanently? Yeah. Oh, so when I was picking my nose, it was okay.
And you may want to get a little closer to your mic when we come back on.
Me or Sarah?
Sarah.
Okay.
Was it hard to hear me?
No, you sounded okay, but you were just so at some point you were like way over here.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
they're controlling it there, but
Okay.
I got to wait for that to come in a little bit, see? We are back. We are back live from Browseabout Books, 133 Rehoboth Avenue here in downtown Rehoboth Beach, having a great time. Want to thank my guest, Tony Boyd-Heron, co-owner, curator of Peninsula Gallery in downtown Lewes, fiber artist Sara Pavlik. The show is open now, but you can go to the opening reception this coming Saturday, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Saturday the 11th.
You're getting me
I even get you
confused now.
I did it. That was part of my evil plan. No, so it's a beautiful show. It's open right now, and of course, it's sidewalk sale in downtown Lewes today, right? So I think
that's a good question.
It's a good, and we have the British Motor Car Show.
Car Show, yeah.
So there's a good reason for people to go into Lewes and check it out. You can go down there and see the
Lewis
show.
and Bloom's got a plant sale on.
That's
I know
right.
that.
Yeah, that's right. So it would be great.
And the farmers market open today.
Farmers market open today. There's a lot going on all over the place. It looks like the weather's still relatively nice outside
and
right
thank
now.
goodness they're not working on the road at the moment.
That's right.
Because they don't work Saturdays.
I think there was some race going on this morning in Lewes as well. Because there are safety cones up the street.
Weather.
You see that? There are people running wildly everywhere. So anyway, thank you both very much. I want everyone to be able to go to the website, peninsula-gallery.com. You can check out the show and go to the opening reception. It's from 5 until 7.
Mm-hmm.
Next
Saturday,
Saturday,
the 11th.
the
Saturday the 11th. You'll be there. Will the other artists be there?
Yes, all four artists will be present.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Just in case anybody doesn't know where the Peninsula Gallery is.
Oh, yes. Give us a shout out to that.
It's going down Savannah Road, cross over the canal towards the beach, and on the left you'll see the Beacon Motel, and we're on the first floor there, along with a number of other commercial enterprises. And on the beach side of the motel, there is a mural going up.
That's right. That's right. You had a big fundraiser for that event.
We did, yeah.
That's a very nice mural.
There is also a small quilt shop, Mayor's Bears Quilt Shop, that is located next to the Beacon Motel.
Oh, well,
So
I didn't know that.
Yes, it's a lovely little quilt shop.
Oh, it's good to know. Sort of keep the fiber arts going.
Absolutely.
Which is great. Which obviously you are, and now you are as well, Tony.
Yep.
So
yep.
I appreciate
proud
that
to
very
be
much.
part of it.
Excellent. Well, thank you both very much. I'm looking forward to that show, and I'll see you both definitely in the neighborhood since we're neighbors, Sarah. So
And we'll see you at the show.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yes, I'll see you at the show.
If you're not here next Saturday or there next Saturday, you're in trouble.
I'll definitely be there. There's no doubt about it. You can count on that. All right. Thank you much. I give
Thank
a
you.
shout out to one of the sponsors of Coastal A&E, the residences of Lighthouse Cove Dewey Beach. Do you like the idea of luxury living? Well, that's exactly what you'll find. The residences at Lighthouse Cove Dewey Beach, they feature brand new 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom luxury condominiums nestled directly next to Rehoboth Bay in the heart of Dewey Beach, Delaware. The residences featured resort-filled amenities, incredible bay views, bayside dining, and much more. They're family-built, family-inspired, and family-operated, all designed specifically for you at 1301 Coastal Highway in Dewey Beach. So welcome to luxury living in Dewey Beach. For more information on the residences of Lighthouse Cove, visit them online at www.theresidencesde.com. I got Steve Crane over here, and he is the
Thanks,
owner.
Michael.
You're welcome,
Thank
Tony.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. The owner of Browseabout Books. I'm thrilled to be here, and I want to get him on the air and have a little quick conversation with you. Steve, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. You're going to get a little closer to the
Okay.
mic. There we go. We got good mics. But so listen, thank you. Thank you for I'm really excited about this. To be here, coming here every Saturday. We're going to be doing this as a steady thing, an hour on the radio with the Facebook Live, and then an hour of Facebook Live after that. You have had this store for 47 years, is that correct?
Yeah, 49. I was just thinking,
Wow.
1975, my wife and I started it.
Wow.
So it's, going on 50. Oh, my God.
That's a lot of book reading over the
I'll tell you what, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of cleaning and dusting and unpacking, but I've been very fortunate. I've had a great staff over the.
You do have a great staff, and in fact, I know several of them, and anyone that comes down here, and it's an incredibly popular spot right here in the heart of Rehoboth Beach. It really is. We're 133 Rehoboth Avenue, but you also have beyond books, and you have an amazing selection of books. The store itself has done so much to help the writing community in Rehoboth, Lewes, and Delmarva over the years. You also have a lot of fun vintage toys. You have great gifts. You have coffee. I mean, this is a place where people just come down and socialize. And, when they come in Rehoboth, you have to come to Browseabout
Well, you know
Books.
what? When we tried to think of a name, my mother came up with the name. It was called Browseabout, and it was on a pair of shoes that she bought at Papagala when there was a Papagala shop here. And it was funny. The whole idea was to make a a store that just was fun and more pastimes, and reading being the number one pastime, everything else evolved, and we tried to just do. It was a family-run business for all these years, and then finally it got to a point where my wife and I just couldn't do it anymore. And, we just added more and more people. And Susan Keogh is our partner now, and she pretty much does the operation. I think people thought I moved away or died or something.
You're just
But
on
she
a
does
cruise somewhere,
everything.
right?
Well, I like to travel, and that's
Yeah.
the benefit of reading, because I read so much about the world. And I say, well, I better go out and see this stuff. So it's amazing. I have to pinch myself when I think of all the places I've been lucky enough to see, but it's all places I've read about, and it all comes back to the reading, and it's been a great adventure.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe,
Well, I think you guys have done a great job here. I mean, it's really a treasure location, and it really, for anyone that hasn't been here in a while, I would highly suggest that they come down, because I think they'll be amazed. It is a bookstore, yes, but it's really so much more, and it's a huge space.
Well, it's the biggest space in Rehoboth, and when I think when we started, the book area was 13 by 13. I mean, it was 300. That's nothing.
That's nothing.
And it was like
the size of this room.
And then it was we moved to 7 Rehoboth Avenue, and it was 448 square feet. And now we have close to 1,200. People often comment, well, you don't have a bunch of books anymore. Well, we have more books on the book side than the original bookstore was when we moved to this location.
Wow.
We have 3 times more space. So it's crazy with all the things that have happened in publishing and electronic books and everything. We've been one of the few stores that have survived and actually thrived. I mean, we have really worked our tails off to try to put out the best product we possibly can.
Oh, without a doubt.
We're working on next year.
Yeah. And you guys just do a lot for the writing community, and also just for causes that you believe strongly in. You're very involved in the community and giving back.
Well, we try to, with all the school districts, first of all. And we work with the Cape Penlopen Bookmobile to go to needy children in needy communities, and we provide thousands of books for them during the summer. We try to say no. We try not to say no to anybody, but there's just not enough to go around. My biggest cause personally, recently, besides for the Cancer and Heart Association and BB, would probably be that I'm spending a lot of time on, is the Brandywine Valley SPCA. So I've been trying to devote as much time to helping them out as possible. And so we'll just there's a million causes and a million things to do. And you just try to do what we can.
Right on. Well, I really appreciate it, man. I do. And we will definitely have you back on the air, because I'm here and you'll be here
Well, it's
Saturday,
good. And Susan will be back next week. And feel free to ask any of my staff any questions. And I hope everybody comes down. I think this is going to be a really nice venue, and as the season goes on, we'll have all kinds of special things here. And stop by and watch the broadcast. It's kind of
it's a lot of fun.
See. This is so much different than when we started with Dan Gifty, and it was like it seems like we had a little telephone, and we did the whole thing by telephone. And now we've got cameras. And
it's pretty
like
wild.
Big time.
Technology has stepped
We need
in.
makeup artists.
Yeah, I know. Like, what's going on here? But
I need a wig.
there you go. That's all right. We can just check that out. So, I mean, we do have a lot of fun things planned. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. This is our very first broadcast here. So, we're sort of, crossing the wires here, making sure that everything works. But I'm really thrilled about it. I think people have a great time, and, just come down and experience it.
Yeah. It'll be fun.
Right on. Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it very, very, very much. I really do. I know that we're going to be getting a call in a little bit, but and I want to give a shout out to Sara Gilmore, who's over here. She's a phenomenal person. I don't know if you can see her, but she's been on a guest on my radio show. I've had a couple of them, and she's very involved in promoting and working in the community. So thank you for coming down here, Sara. I really appreciate it. Wonderful person. And I got one other, the guy with the cowboy hat. I go, Bobby Lee Jones. Can you pop over here for a little bit? Yeah. So We actually haven't met yet, but I've heard a lot about you.
Good morning.
So good morning, good to meet you. So you're with the Federal Street Band.
Yes. Yep,
And my
sure.
friend Clifford Keith was just raving about you
Yes,
and
Cliff's a
said
good
that
buddy.
yeah, good guy, and they're incredibly talented. I've had them on the show several times, and I just think they put on an amazing show. But he said you're really an amazing performer and a songwriter.
And the songwriter. That's right.
Right on, and it's a
Well, I
country.
try
You got
to
a
be.
country. It's a little. So
Yeah.
I saw he sent me a video last night, and I thought, is that a ukulele? So it was a mandolin you were playing.
The mandolin. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're playing an Irish song, I think.
Oh yeah. I woke up that morning and I was playing at Paradise Pub, and I said, I'm going to write something. I kind of woke up singing.
You woke up and wrote that song
Yeah,
then, and
I
then
was-
you
I woke
went
up
for it?
singing the song, so I
Wow.
said, well, if it's in my head, I might as well sit down, grab the mandolin, and just put some words to it.
Wow,
So,
that's
yeah, it
impressive,
was pretty
man.
funny.
That's, you get a little inspiration in the middle
Yeah.
of the night, and you
And-
wake up and put it out there.
And I'm not a Irish singer. So,
But you
I don't wanna
you look and
mislead
sound so
anybody,
much
and-
like an Irish musician that I'm a little confused. But no, actually, so I grew up it's funny because it's today's Derby Day. I grew up in Bowling Green, Kentucky, which
yeah.
isn't far outside of Nashville, Tennessee. So the sun still shines bright on my old Kentucky home. I got to tell you about that. But you definitely have the Nashville look.
Well, that's I think I contributed a lot of that to growing up as a kid in Bluefield, Virginia, and just learning the Southern way and just doing what we do as everyday life.
Wow,
and moving
nice.
to Delaware, I think people were back in the day. They used to be a little bit shy on country music, but I think everybody's kind of stepped out of that closet of being categorized. So
Well, no, I agree.
likes
It's a
it
good
now,
point.
so-
I'm a big fan of country music, and what I've noticed around here is there's really, there's country music that's very poppy and commercial, but the
Right.
music that I'm seeing around here is really well thought out. I mean, these songs are beautifully written. They're storytelling songs, and
absolutely.
the music is phenomenal.
That's,
so.
you always have to have a good story behind every great song.
Yeah, right on. Well, man, I would love for you to. Do you feel like playing something
Sure,
for us
I'll
right
play
now?
something. I'm going to play an original song toward the end of this year. I'm going to actually put out an EP when I find time. When I'm not playing music all the time, but it's probably going to be a 3 or 4 song EP that's going to come out toward the end of this year.
All right, we're going to set your
and
mics up here
It's
for
a
you.
song I wrote with an old bandmate of mine, Travis Wade. It's
All
called,
right.
yeah,
What's the song? What's the name of the song we're about to hear?
Lonely Road.
All right, here we go.
On a lonely road he traveled, kicking up dust and gravel, eyes on the rear view, just waiting to see what comes. Thinking about tomorrow, overwhelmed by his sorrow. The radio keeps playing that song we always loved. Then he realized that he done lost his mind. Said the boy's drunk, leave him alone, sitting at the bar singing sad songs with the kill shots. A little Patron, thinking about the days that went long gone, and the way he left, it was wrong. He didn't know what he did till he was gone. So he rode off in a cloud of smoke on a lonely road, on a lonely road. On a lonely road he traveled, now it's starting to unravel. He don't know where he's going, he ain't blind, he just can't see. That picture on the dashboard, it don't matter anymore. That's just a memory of the way they used to be. Then he realized he done lost his mind. Said the boy's drunk, leave him alone, sitting at the bar singing sad songs with the killer shots. A little Patron, thinking about the days that were long gone, and the way he left, it was wrong. He didn't know what he did till he was gone. So he rode on, long way to go, on a lonely road, on a lonely road. eyes on the rear view, just waiting to see what comes.
Wow, that was phenomenal. Man, thank you so much, man. That was great.
It's a little too early to be singing, but
No, man,
yeah.
you sounded great. Are you kidding? If that's too early to be singing, man, I'm in the wrong business. That was phenomenal. Listen, will you
Thank you
stick
very
around
much.
for the next second
I
half
sure
hour?
will.
Do
Yeah, I
another
have to
show?
roll out at least by 12:30.
Okay, right
today.
on. We're
And
good.
at,
Good. Yeah,
Paradise
man.
Grill on the Lagoon stage.
I
It's the
appreciate
opening
it.
weekend,
That was
so-
Bobby Lee Jones, everyone from Federal Street Band. He's going to stick around, do one more tune a little bit. I got a
Sure
call
will.
coming in, though, that I got to take before we run out of time in this first hour. I really appreciate it, man. That was great. Very, very good. I'm glad I got to get to you on the air. I think we can go to our call now. Let's see if we get... Hello, good morning. You're on Coastal A&E. Hey, Susan, how are you? Fantastic. So this is Susan McLean and Kyle Kaminsky, and you are at the grand opening today of New Wave Imagery there in Lewes. Congratulations. I know you guys have been working on this for a while, correct? Yes, soonish. Soonish is here. That's great. So hey, there you go. That's phenomenal. So where? Give it the exact address of your space. Mm-hmm. What? You couldn't keep the big scissors? I think that's the best part of a ribbon cutting is those giant scissors. I don't know you're going to be able to keep those. This is really great. So how long will you be there today? Five-ish. Okay. That's great. So and I'm sorry, go ahead. It's great. It's beautiful here. Yeah, no, we're having a great time. Got some very talented people coming in here, and everyone's just sort of having a good time here. Browseabout. I don't know what the weather's like outside because I've been in here for a while. Was it okay? I guess we're getting in there looking like it was probably hanging in there. Not a good hair day. Oh well, then I better stay inside. Right on. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot going on in Lewes, and you're pretty easy to get to down there. And so for people that they can check out, you both are very talented photographers. As I said, that you were on my show, what was it, about 4 weeks ago, I think, something like that. And people can go to your Facebook page, right? Facebook.com/New Wave Imagery, just to get a sense of everything, correct? What? Cupcakes and cookies? Wow. I'm a sucker for cupcakes and cookies. Yes, actually, as a matter of fact, I'm surprised you can't hear my stomach growling across the microphone. What? I'm not sure who that is or what that's about. But anyway, I want people to go down there to New Wave Imagery and check it out. So everyone there, well, you're there at Savannah Road. Give us your address one more time. All right. All right. Well, good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to pop down there and see it after I get back into Lewes. You guys have a great time. Save a cookie for me so I will swing by there. Thank you very much, guys. All right. Well, there you go. That was fun. Yeah, it's not like they have a nice little crowd turning out there. I know everyone here is just sort of looking at me strangely because they can't hear, I don't think, the radio, what's happening here. But that was Susan McLean and Kyle Kaminsky, two very talented photographers, and they've just opened their new space. We got about 5 minutes left before, I guess, the end of the hour. Then we're going to go into our second broadcast, which is going to be Facebook Live only. Bobby, where Federal Street Band? Where do you guys play around the area?
We do. We're all over the place. We play anywhere from Paradise Grill to Conch Island over to the pond across the street.
Yeah.
Everywhere in Sussex, Newcastle. Next week we're going to PA from Wednesday till Saturday at it's a little place called the Winter Circle.
Oh, okay, right. How long you been together? The band?
About 3 years roughly now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. So you were telling me earlier that the people are starting to sort of embrace their inner country loving selves, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It's so funny because a friend of ours, she's always been more of a rap fan, and we actually got her into country music, and she says when she drives down the road, it puts her at peace, so the road rage isn't.
That's good to know. Yeah, that's a good thing. You just have to stay away from the road rage. You can listen to some really chill out country music.
And if
which is
she's
nice.
listening, she's going to know who she is. She's probably laughing.
That's good. Hopefully she's listening. Listen, we only got a couple of minutes left. You're going to stick around for a little bit, Bobby, which is great. I'm really excited about that. I want to give a shout out of thanks to Cliff and Aaron from Indian River for turning us on, because I think you sound phenomenal. Everybody, listen, thank you so much for joining us for our first live broadcast here from Browseabout Books in Rehoboth Beach. I've had a blast. You guys got to come down next Saturday. We will be here every Saturday for henceforth. Looking forward to a lot of fun things planned. It's just a great experience, and I highly suggest you guys check it out. And, of course, you can follow our Facebook stream on facebook.com/Coastal A&E. How much time we got here left? Just about 60 seconds. I'm going to hear the music kick in. I've had a blast. We will have a giveaway next week. We're just going to put that together in connection here to the bookstore. It's Derby Day, so go out and, maybe go to a Derby party around. There's a lot going on in Lewes. There's a lot happening here in Rehoboth. You got to have a creative week out there, folks. And also remember, New Wave Imagery, facebook.com/New Wave Imagery. Do you guys have a Facebook page?
We do. It's under Federal Street Band, or you can go on my solo page, which is Bobby Lee Jones Music, and find everything you need as far as the schedule and what's up and coming.
Yeah, because I want people to check this out. I'm really looking forward to you sticking around for a little bit longer. And again, everybody out there, we're gonna stop broadcasting this morning on 105.9 FM, but we are going to continue our Facebook stream, and that is facebook.com/Coastal A&E. We got just a couple of minutes left here, so we're just going to wait and see what rolls out. And listen, the bookstore here, also, you can come down while we're here on Facebook Live and just join us. We're not going anywhere. We are located at 133 Rehoboth Avenue. I think the music is coming in here. I can hear it starting to come in a little bit. So, listen, everyone, have a great, safe rest of the weekend. I've had a great time. Thank you much. I'm your host, Michael Sprouse, Coastal A&E. Go out and do something creative week. I'll see you next Saturday.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, man, thank you. Thank you much. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that's not easy what you do, is it?
So we're still running live here right now, right? Okay, so now we're on Facebook. So we're going to we're sort of going to keep it flowing.
Do you want me to pick these up or can
You can take them. Yeah, we're good. So now it's a little more laid back and chill.
Right.
I can't really see though what's happening here. So can we refresh this stream, or are we just sort of? I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah, you can go with it. I mean, we can switch it around if you want. It's still
Okay. So anyone that's here, Sara, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming in. I really do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Here, let me give you a card real quick.
I'm sorry. No, that's good. Oh yeah, please do.
Here you go.
Hello.
I'm a friend
Thank
of
you very
Trey
much.
Ryan's,
Appreciate
and
it.
I know Tony, but,
Billy,
here's my
thank you.
thing. I made a movie and it won an award. It's pretty shitty.
Oh.
I mean, it wasn't shitty.
We're actually we're live right now, by the way, on
sorry.
Facebook. No, that's okay. Oh, we are.
It really
No, I'm glad
isn't.
you are.
It isn't shitty, but it's a first attempt.
Oh, cool.
And I made it about one of the original ink spots that I met.
Oh, wow.
And he was 100 and I was 50. So we
Wow.
were perfect for one another.
Oh, there you go.
And out of a love for him, he wanted to write a book, and his book idea was horrible, but I worked with him. But then I found all the music and his whole story. So I don't know what possessed me. I said, let's make a movie.
Very nice.
And it actually won an award.
Really? That's great.
I gotta toot my own horn.
Yeah.
But anyway, and it also got me into tap dance, which I love. But
This story gets better and better.
it
does,
gets,
doesn't
it gets crazy. And I'll tell you where I learned about how much I like country music from the guy who does Massage on Me. He says, I'm not playing that, that new age stuff. I'm gonna
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I tell you, it gets like in your bones.
Well, there is a little divide, a great divide I call it, with modern country and old country. It's either you like one or the other, but I like it all.
Yeah,
Honestly. But
yeah.
you have haters out there that
Yeah, no, it's true.
they
It's
want to
true.
stick with just the traditional old style country, and that's fine. I mean, that's perfectly fine. But it's
all
a new
good.
world,
But
So
did you write that song?
yes, with a buddy of mine.
It was
yeah.
really
Yeah.
fabulous.
Thank you.
The lyrics were wonderful too.
So, just to be clear, we are actually still streaming on Facebook
Oh,
Live right
God.
now. No, I wasn't kidding about that. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure meeting you. So you can't see it, but that's okay. I mean,
sorry.
we have
One
people that are
day,
watching
can we
us.
come?
Yes,
come in?
absolutely. I would love
Okay.
that. So I don't know how to get into. I have your.
I'll,
Podcast.
I'll see you.
Lead
We'll
guitar,
interview.
bass,
All right, that
drums,
sounds great.
Myself and another guy, Mark Chapman.
And that's the fun of doing live things. So,
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
just so that everyone we're on the same page. We're doing a Facebook Live right now
Right,
for the
yeah.
next hour. We got people watching it. So we're totally by the fly because
the
I
camera at?
can't
What's
see
up,
it.
y'all?
Yeah, we
How
got
you
a
doing?
camera there and a camera here.
Nice.
But they can hear us, and we're still. These are our mics, right? Or the hot mics, so everyone can sort of bear with it because it's new, our first time here doing
Right,
this.
right.
But man, I think you should do another song. If you want to, you up for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just play you one that's going to be on the EP toward the end of this year. I wrote this song basically about a broken relationship, and when I first met my girlfriend now, Trisha, I kind of had that mind thought that, I'm so broke, you're
Yeah.
never going to fix me,
Wow, yeah.
But it turned out that she did, so
Right on.
it's all good.
Good,
So
man. I'm going to hear this song. What is the name of the song?
It's called, gosh, I can't even think of it right now. How about if I just sing it and then I'll
Just
tell
sing
you what
it.
it is?
Just sing it. We're going to talk about it.
Nothing
I'm
but a
looking forward to
memory,
this.
actually, is what it's going to be called.
All right. Sounds good.
I got nothing left to offer you but a memory. You see, the stroke has settled in my life and not the same. I'm a few years older and my heart's grown cold. The scars still run real deep. 'Cause I got nothing left to offer you but a memory. I woke up this morning on the wrong side of the bed. I shook off those whiskey shots still ringing in my head. My feet hit the ground, remembered every word you said. You can be somebody's memory, but I wanna be your last. 'Cause I got nothing left to offer you but a memory. You see, the smoke has settled in my life and I'm not the same. I'm a few years older and my heart's grown cold. The scars still run real deep. 'Cause I got nothing left to offer you but a memory.
Oh, man, that was great. Beautiful, man.
It's
Beautiful.
not 100% finished, but
Yeah,
that's
it's a work in progress.
Yeah, work in progress. That's
Right on. So this was a song. This is the original song that you wrote.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you're, how does that? I'm not a music writer, you
Yeah.
know, so I can't really connect to the process. How does it happen? You said you woke up with a song in your head. I mean, does that happen frequently?
Yeah, it not frequently, because as a songwriter, you really have to be in that mindset, and for some people it's different. Some people, that's what they do. They can sit down and write a song, knock it out, and they do that every day. For me, I have to have something, happen in my life that pushes that idea out into the world. And I think that's pretty important for me, unless I dream about it and wake up. If I dream about it and I wake up, I better jump right on it and start writing because I forget. But yeah, for me, there's no rhyme or reason. It's just if it comes to me, then I write it down.
Wow.
That's pretty
Well,
much
how does it
everything
now?
comes
This is
out,
going to
so.
sound like probably a pretty ridiculous question for anyone that is a songwriter, which
Yeah.
again, let me say I am not. But there's so much music all around us all the time. How do people even find the ability to write an original song that doesn't cross over into some other similar sounding song, because they do end up different?
That does happen quite a bit, and particularly with country music, there's a lot of overlapping with music that sounds exactly the same tempo, the same finger snaps, but just different words,
Yeah,
or it's slower, or it's faster. But I tend to think about it if I'm sitting down writing a song, and I say, "Oh, this sounds like another song." Well, you're going to have to either change over some chords.
Okay.
But with me, I won't continue to write. I'll just stop.
Wow.
If it sounds like another song, and my library is pretty huge, so I'll kind of know if it sounds like another song. But for the most part, it's tough.
Wow. And do you start with lyrics or music first? What is the first process that comes in your head?
Lyrics mainly for me, and then I'll sit down, because usually as a musician, I'm humming, humming the song, and I know what chord it's in, So I'm humming it. As I'm humming it, then I'll find a pen and a paper and write it down,
Wow.
So, yeah.
So what are some of your favorite classic? I know we were talking sort of transitioning from radio to live stream here, and you said that you were into all different aspects of country.
Yeah,
But some people,
absolutely.
as you said, are the purists. I like classic country. I like new country.
Yeah.
What are some of the classic country songs that you think, man, these are just at the top of the pyramid, and there's really nothing that can touch
Patsy
them?
Cline is one of them. She always gets me, and that's in my everyday listen to. Just driving down the road.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Hear Patsy Cline, Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash, all the greats. George Jones, the people that pretty much made the foundation for country music. Is who I listen to all the time. And modern country, Jason Aldean, I respect him a lot. Of course, he's just was nominated for country artist of the decade.
Yeah, that's
like
pretty.
that,
That's pretty
That's
impressive.
huge, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
But
Absolutely,
I was listening to an article with old Jason, and he when he first started playing, he started making money, and he was so afraid to spend his money because he was used to growing up poor. And they said, you can actually afford to buy a house now.
Wow.
You can
Are
afford
you
to buy
sure,
property, and that's what he was. For a while, he was like, no, I'm not doing that. No.
Wow.
But
Well,
now look at him.
when I grew up, and I'm much older than you are, but at that time, and I grew up outside Nashville.
Yeah.
And if you made it as a country star, then you would stay one the rest of your days.
Oh,
There
yeah.
was no flash of the pan. It was like you're a country star, and that's
Right,
it.
right, exactly.
I think it's a little different now, is it? Or it's become more commercialized on
It
that
is
level.
very commercialized, and it's pretty much in who you know, how much money you have, and how good your material is. And there's a lot of money being thrown out there, but to really make it in this industry, you have to be really aggressive and get out and knock on every door and just get in front of people's faces.
Now, is this something that as a local artist here, I mean, is your goal to move to Nashville and become this huge star, or you're just sort of cool to do your thing here? Or?
That used to be my goal. Right now, if it happens, it happens. Right now, I just want every day to wake up and be healthy, so I can continue to sing and write songs. And eventually, I really do plan on singing at church, singing music for the Lord. But someday I'll get around to doing that.
How many songs have you written, would you say, if you could take a guess?
Off the top of my head, probably about 10, maybe. Only really good songs,
But so do you ever, the other day, Cliff and Aaron were actually over at my house having dinner. We're having a really good time.
really? Yeah.
And I said, hey, man, there's this lyric from this song, and I didn't mean to throw him.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. I was trying to remember this, because the lyrics, one of the things I like about a really well-made country song is they're so lyrical. They're
Absolutely,
storytelling songs, and as opposed to a lot of pop songs that you hear today, which are really just about partying or whatever. There's a variety of things that we're talking about.
There's not a lot of creativity in.
No. There's not.
In the lyrics,
there isn't, and there's some
not
pop songs
knocking
I
it,
love.
don't-
No, not at all. There's some songs I love like that, just because they're just stupid and inane, and
Yeah,
you just want to
yeah.
dance around the room. You don't want to think about it, but. That's, I think, one of the big differences. The country music, they're often telling they're ballads.
Great stories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great stories.
Absolutely.
I think you have to be a storyteller to do that.
I think a lot of country music anymore involves a lot of dirt roads, back roads, bonfires. I don't know, country girls.
Yeah.
It's very cliche, but I try to stay away from that when I write.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to do. You find yourself trying to mimic what's being played on the radio because obviously that's
There's
what everybody's
success
listening
attached to it. Yeah.
But now you're right about just the whole creativity and about country music. And you have to tell a story, and you have to tell it well.
And I think at that time, when I'm talking, probably it seems to me, now this is before my time, the late 50s, early 60s, that's when country music really started to cross over, as you
Right.
said. People like Johnny Cash, Loretta Lynn,
Yeah.
Conway Twitty, George Jones, a lot of these famous classic country, Patsy Cline, their
Right.
music started getting bigger airplay outside
Yeah.
of just these small little stations in the
Absolutely.
South, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then they
Sure.
became classic country artists. Do
Uh-huh.
you see, are those days gone? Or do you think that one day there would
No.
be some type of,
I don't think those days are gone, and I think everything's going to come back around. But I definitely think there's great artists out there right now that's going to fulfill those shoes, as George Jones wrote the song about. Who's going to fill their shoes?
Yeah.
If you've never heard it, you have to listen to it. It's a great song. But there's a lot of great artists out there right now that's staying true to country music, and they're not going to sway. They're going to stay with it. It's not always popular, but they do what feeds their soul. So.
when you're watching, I forget, it was just on the other day, I think Reba McEntire was the host, again, for like the 5th or 6th year. It
Right,
wasn't,
yeah.
may have been Country Music. There are a lot of these sort of award shows
Right.
that pop up.
Right.
And I have nothing against Reba McEntire, and she's probably considered a new, not new, but she's a classic country artist.
Classic,
She's
yeah,
been around long
absolutely.
enough to,
Yeah.
be an icon. But you can't help but watch, and you look at that, and it's become very commercialized.
It has.
That
Yeah.
aspect of country music, very different than when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Which was Grand Ole Opry and Hee Haw, basically, is
Yes.
what you would
Yeah.
watch on TV. And,
That's true.
They would play at the state fair, and, that was it.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's all this sort of, these big show numbers and, and designer gowns and guys in tuxes and limousines and stuff. And it does seem to pull something away from that. Or is that my imagination?
No, you're exactly right. When you go to Nashville as an artist, you can walk into Nashville, get a record deal, and think you have everything just the way you want it, and they're going to rip you down. They're going to change everything about you, including your appearance.
Wow. Wow.
Don't say it this way, say it that way.
Yeah.
So they change you inside and out. So if you're fortunate enough to go into Nashville and stay the same, you're kind of rare.
Wow.
So
that's sort of sobering thought there for someone that may want to go into the business, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
know.
It's pretty amazing what they do.
Wow. Well, I really am glad that you were on this song. It's totally up to you. If you want to do one more song, or I got to get out, or I'm done.
No, I'll do one more song for you. And going back to the original conversation, I wrote this song many years ago about somebody I care for, and it's pretty funny because every time I play it, they go, "That song sounds like this song," and for the longest time, I had no clue what that song was, and so I looked it up, and I was like, "Yeah, kind of, but no, not really." So
okay.
I'm going to keep it.
Sounds good,
So
man.
this is called "Hard Loving Woman."
All right.
You built a wall that reached the highest heavens, and of all the walls, this one I had to climb. I meant it all when I got down on my knees. I knew someday this wall had to fall. And there was silence. Then I heard you cry. I never knew a And it's damn sure plain to see that a woman like you can break a hard-loving man like me. Now we're all alone, and you're standing there, talking about forever, asking if we'll ever get out of here. Yeah, baby, it's an uphill climb, but I spend every dime. Spend my life with the one that drives me out of my mind. And there was silence, and then I heard you cry. I never knew a man like me could break a heart, love a woman like you. I've taken all the ins and outs, and it's dang sure plain to see that a woman like you can break a heart, loving man like me. I've never sold you the world to let you know how I feel. But when it comes down right to the point, let you know how I feel. There was silence, and then I heard you cry. I never knew a man like me could break a heart, love a woman like you. I've taken all the ins and outs, and it's dang sure plain to see that a woman like you can break a heart, loving man like me. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that was great, man. That was great.
That's called Hard Loving Woman.
That was great. Thank you so much for that, man. That was great.
Thank
so
you all
listen,
for having me out.
Oh,
here.
my
This is
pleasure.
great, man.
My pleasure. I'll
Great.
definitely have you back on the air. I just put a link to. I'm guessing this is you
Federal
guys,
Street
right?
Band.
Federal
Yep.
Street Band. I put a link on our Facebook stream
Very-
right now, which
very
is
cool.
live.
Thank you.
Coastal A&E, Facebook.com, Coastal A&E. You guys were great. Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that, buddy.
Hey, my pleasure. My pleasure. Is Bobby Lee Jones, Federal Street Band. Where you guys got playing next? Where you got something going?
Today we're at Paradise Grill from 3 to 7 o'clock.
All
So
right, nice.
If you're out and about, stop on in. We're on the
Yeah.
Lagoon stage doing acoustic. It's going to be Bobby Jones and Dave Ducate, which is my drummer.
All right.
My buddy. And I call that little duo. It's Bobby Lee and the Duke.
Not Bobby Lee and the Duke.
Bobby Lee and the
Cool.
Duke, that's right. Yeah.
That's gonna be great.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be back in touch, man. I appreciate it, my
that,
friend.
buddy.
This
and
is
thank
great.
you all so much out there. Thank you for watching and listening. And
Yeah,
make
right
sure you
on.
support us. If you like what you hear going Bobby Lee Jones music, click that like button.
Hey, yeah, right on. I'll do that too. I'll put a link up in there. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
you
Have
much.
a good
Appreciate
show
that
today.
once
My
again.
pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you.
I see that I got Roman over there popped in. You want to come over here and get on the mic with me for a second? I appreciate that. Thank you, Bobby. How's it going? This is Sean Roman. So how's it going, man?
Good. How's the first time going?
It's good. It's good. It's good. People probably know your voice because you're normally the board op when we're in the studio there at 99
Yeah.
105.9 FM.
Yeah.
Yes, but here you
You
are.
almost
You
said your other radio
I went somewhere
station.
other radio station, which like, I had to stop and wait a second. Not that radio show. So this is part of our Facebook live stream, which we
Yes.
do for an hour now, which is something new. So this is a lot of fun. What you also host a show on 105.9 FM, correct? You're a radio DJ as well.
Well, I have a music show, classic rock.
That's
on
right.
Cool 101.3.
That's right.
And then adult contemporary on Eagle 97.7.
Oh, adult.
And then I have a
contemporary.
segment during Rob Sussman's show on 3 to 6. It's like
Oh.
the Millennial Monday is what he calls it. We talk about like millennial stuff. I
What
don't
is millennial stuff?
know.
I'm not sure.
like,
I opened a terrible bottle.
The
of,
last time we
know,
talked about it was, I'm trying to remember. I don't know. It's usually just like the boomers versus millennials, like how the difference in the generational upbringing And I know you're not a boomer.
No. I'm not a boomer. Fortunately, I'm considered. I guess it's called Gen X.
Yes.
Boomer was before my time, just
You're,
by a year or two.
A latchkey kid, apparently.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's what they call it. Yeah, though I don't feel like much like a kid at all anymore.
And you grew up in Alabama, right?
Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Yeah, it's all the same from what I can tell. From
They
that
blend
comment,
together down there.
They do. Like, no, it's Kentucky. It's Kentucky Derby Day.
Is it that today?
Yeah.
Are
See,
you gonna
nobody.
have a mint julep?
I'm gonna. You know what? I gotta figure out the recipe. I mean, I've had plenty of them over the years, but I don't know if I've
You're
actually
from
ever
Kentucky
made them.
and you don't know how to make it?
I never made them. You know, you're served them. So I know it's bourbon, clearly, mint,
Yes.
fresh mint, simple syrup. Maybe that's it. I don't
think
know.
you're right.
That could be it. And you're supposed to have the silver. I don't have any silver things to drink it from, but yeah, that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know, I had some last year. I went to a little gathering last year. It was really good. It was a Kentucky in the neighborhood. It was a lot of fun. Sort of an impromptu thing. And they had these really great glasses. And you know how they can rim a glass with salt, like for a margarita, but they did it with sugar. It was very exciting. And then, of course, there was the race. And my horse won.
You won? Did you win any money?
Not like $5. I mean, it was just like a little, everyone's like, you know, throwing a little dollar. It was a little neighborhood thing. You know, I'm not much of a gambling guy, but.
Cinco de Mayo weekend.
You know, I know. There's so much going on this week. It's pretty crazy. I don't know what's happening here in Rehoboth. There appeared to be a race of some sort earlier. Was there anything going on out there when you walked in?
I don't know. It's a 10-minute walk for me, so I just came from up there. So
is it still foggy and funky?
Yeah,
up there?
a little bit. Yesterday was senior skip day for the high school, so there were a bunch of kids down here.
They still.
Yeah.
Is that something that still exists? I
Yeah.
know, it's amazing. Senior skip day.
I went to the zoo for mine. back in
Did
the
you
day.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very smart thing to do. Smart way
Yeah.
to spend. I don't. If I had that, it was so long ago that
You can pawn it off as educational too. If you go to the zoo.
I was studying on senior skip day.
Yeah.
So when are you next on the air?
What time is it?
Oh, you're on the air today. It's 12:22.
I'm on the air right now.
Well,
That's a
hey,
secret.
That's a point. You're not going to say anything
It's
about
recorded
that
today.
Yeah. So do you have other things that you have to work on today, or is today your just to chill?
Today was the day off for me, so I'm just chilling
right.
out today.
Right on. Are you going? Remember, were you there when we had Kyle Kaminsky and Susan McLean, the photographers from New Wave Imagery? I think
Yes,
you were the board.
they're in Lewes, right?
Yeah, and they have the grand opening today.
Oh, cool.
As a matter of
Good for
fact,
them.
yeah, New Wave Imagery.
I remember he was talking about drone photography, and I do a lot of
Yes.
stuff with drones,
Do
so it's
you?
interesting to me. Yeah, I'm the 1059 drone pilot, which is a title that Dan Gaffney gave me, but it doesn't come with any extra money or anything like that. So,
I didn't even know they had a drone.
well, it's my
105.9.
drone. So.
Oh, it's your drone. So it's your drone, and you're the drone pilot.
Yeah, that's
and
why
so-
sometimes when we had the terrible tornado in Laurel,
Yeah,
actually,
a few weeks ago.
I went down there with the drone and got some footage of the damage, which fortunately wasn't as bad as it could be, but seeing it from the aerial perspective it was crazy too. That was the last thing I used it for, was
Yeah.
for that. And I was the tornado hit on a Monday, and I went down there, and it was still too windy to get it up in the air. And since it's my drone and not the station's, you know, I'm not risking
It's staying here on the ground.
Yeah. Also, the police were there, and I didn't want to get yelled at.
Well, there's that. I mean, that was a those were legitimate tornadoes. Or,
Yeah,
or was it just one?
It was just one here, and then there was another one somewhere in Maryland, I believe. I'd have to go back and look at the story, but it was confirmed by the National Weather Service. That was how long ago was that? 2 weeks ago?
Three,
Time
3 to
blends
4
together.
weeks ago, I think.
24
It
hours.
was before Easter. I remember that.
Yeah, and we went down. Yeah, it was terrible. There was a farmhouse that was just completely destroyed. Fortunately, nobody was living in it. The Utz distribution center in Laurel roof was completely off.
Wow.
And yeah,
Tornadoes are scary things.
yeah.
I was in a few in my day.
In Kentucky.
In Kentucky,
Yeah.
Bama, Noy, wherever it is that you said you're
So
in Kentucky.
if you think
yeah.
a tornado
Kentucky.
goes off while the derby's going off, do you think that'll make the horses run faster? with the
you
wind?
know, that's a good question. I'm sure people start laying down bets at that point. That's all that matters. I've never been to the Kentucky Derby because
Have you been to the
it's
Preakness?
crazy.
'Cause
No, I've not. I'm
right.
not even that. You know, I'm not. I mean, no offense towards people there are a lot of people that love horses and horse racing and gambling. I've just never been that into it.
Yeah.
And the Kentucky Derby, of course it has this great sort of, prestige about it, but it's very difficult and very expensive to get into, as you can imagine, unless you're on, I forget what they call, there's the area where people just go and party, and that's just like a crazy.
They have that at the Preakness. I went to the Preakness once, and
it's crazy.
It gets pretty crazy. They have like what they call the gauntlet, where these drunk people, they get up on top of the line of the porta potties, and they run. I think they banned it. They run across the top of the porta potties, and people are throwing like drinks at them.
That sounds like.
And I was like, wow, this is like when I went to the zoo for senior skip day.
Right. See the difference? That's the difference between baby boomers and millennials.
Yeah.
Someone will literally leap from the top of a porta john to another
There's
one.
videos of it. You can
and then
look it
you'll
up
go to the
online.
zoo and get smarter. But
sure you can get arrested
so
for it
I think I don't want. The older I get, the more I'm not really into being in big crowds. Though I will probably do Firefly this year because I've done it.
Yeah, I did that last year. I was press. I was like backstage taking pictures.
Yeah.
And I never get sick, and I got sick from that day. And
From-
I think
from what?
From Firefly. I got really sick after the weekend of the festival. It's only 2 days this year.
Yeah,
they
I
dropped
think
the day.
They got rid of the Thursday.
They got rid of Thursday.
Yeah.
3. Yeah,
3 days?
Yeah, they got rid of Thursday.
The other Sean is popping
Yes.
and saying it's a 3-day festival. Yeah.
Yeah, it was it's a good time, but you really do need to be prepared for it.
You do, man. And the first time I went, and I was, older than most of the people there too.
Yeah,
The first
it's
time I
definitely
went, it was like,
started.
oh my
It's
gosh,
definitely started skewing towards a younger demographic. Like they've had Sir Paul McCartney there a couple years
Yeah, well,
ago.
I saw it was a phenomenal show.
Oh yeah, that was before I moved out here.
I saw Bob Dylan there.
And now
it was great.
in comparison, they have like Post Malone, who's the headliner now.
Yeah, I know,
A lot
it's
of
very
older
different.
people probably don't even know.
They gave the older people the boots.
Yeah.
I think. And it wasn't like when I was there. What was nice about it was there was a huge mix of people.
I was surprised
of all
too. When
ages.
Last year was my first time going, and I was surprised. And there's a big demographic, and I don't know why there was like little kids there though. It's not really.
Yeah, I would never know.
No.
There were little kids there. I remember I was seeing. Oh come on, I can't forget his name now. He's a famous rap artist and
Lil Wayne.
No, it was a couple of years ago. I think he's doing things with Martha Stewart now. As a matter
Snoop
of fact,
Dogg?
Snoop Dogg. I was at the. Thank you. Of course, the most obscure reference. Why he's doing a show with Martha Stewart, but he's a famous
That's
rap
the
artist.
reference.
It's like what the. So with Snoop Dogg, he was great, and his shows are pretty intense, and he
Yeah.
makes no qualms about his lyric content and
No,
what he enjoys personally. And there was this couple that was standing next to me, and they looked like they'd stepped off the Love Boat. They were probably in their early to mid 60s, and they were literally wearing matching like little shorts and shirts and button downs and they were just loving the Snoop Dogg show, and they it was like this is really phenomenal, and they're taking photos, and it was such a strange experience, but it was a really good show. So yes, at that time it was really open up to anybody that wanted to come out and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
They didn't sing along to the Snoop Dogg
No.
though, because then I would really be wow.
I have a hard time even understanding the lyrics most of the time for that sort of genre of music.
It was pretty crazy. Someone from the audience passed him a massive joint, which he literally the
He
size of
apparently
my
has-
arm.
He
I'm
probably
not
has the
kidding.
strongest weed in the world.
I
'cause
would imagine
he has a huge
so.
tolerance built up.
So that was a very interesting show to say the least. But I've always had a really good time at Firefly. But yeah, it seems to there's changes in the air. I was there when, speaking of tornadoes, my first Firefly is when they had that terrible storm. There was a tornado warning, and they evacuated everybody. That was the one day that I said I need just one day to be free. But my cameraman and his at that time girlfriend were there, and he said it was pandemonium. He said it was because everyone's watching a show, and all of a sudden the screen, you can see the monitors for that people are back, and I forget who the band was playing. It was a well-known band, and suddenly the screen went to evacuate immediately, tornado warning,
gosh.
active tornado warning, and people just lost it. They just started running crazily, and and it was pretty crazy, But
So you had a country artist on,
I did
Just a
earlier.
second
Yes,
ago.
I did. Yeah,
and we were
yeah.
speaking about. Have you heard that rap country crossover that everybody's talking about?
No.
It's called Old Town Road, and it's by a rap artist. His name's Lil Nas, I think.
Really?
Little Nas X. Thank
Little
you, Colin.
Nas X?
Clearly, he's a big fan of Little Nas X.
Is it really? Is it country and rap mixed together? Wow.
Billy Ray Cyrus collaborated.
Yeah. Well, what happened was he released a song, and it was originally on the country Billboard charts, but then Billboard took it off the chart because they said it wasn't country enough, and it created this huge. I don't want to say huge. It's not that big of a deal, but it created this controversy, and people were saying it was racist because he's a black rap artist releasing a country song, and there was a bunch of, and then Billy Ray Cyrus, popular country artist, came out and supported him, and they released a remix of the song, and Billy Ray Cyrus is on the remix with them.
Really? I got to hear
And
this.
now it's back on the chart because of all the controversy.
So he really is a country. He's a country artist or a rap artist.
He's a
or
rap
both?
artist. He got inspired to write the song from playing a Western video game. Playing a video game.
Wow, that's an
And-
inspiring
And
moment.
then he wrote the song about the video game, and it got really popular. And now we play it on the top 40 station I'm on.
Really?
So it's like a crossover song. Yeah.
That sounds pretty great. So what is the term for country rap? If you
Country
take the word
rap, I
country and
guess.
rap and smash it together, it
It's
sounds
not
like
the-
you're going to get
honestly, it's not
crap,
the
and that
first-
doesn't sound like the word we want to use.
It's,
So I don't think that's.
it's
what
not
we
the
want.
first time it's happened. Florida Georgia Line, which is like bro country, they did stuff with Nelly, and then Nelly did a song with I think Tim McGraw. It's not the first time it's
Wow.
happened, but this is definitely like a next level, and it's sort of similar. Honestly, rap and country, they sort of sing about the same sort of stuff, but it's different. I would say rap is usually a little more profane than country, but they sing about women,
Just a
they sing
tiny
about
bit,
partying.
yeah.
I mean, bro country now, which is like the top 40 country, they sort of sing about the same
Yeah.
stuff. It's not really any different. I did like I didn't catch the guest name you had on right before me.
Bobby Lee Jones.
Bobby, I did like his sound, and it did sound different than the stuff I hear on the radio right now.
Yeah, I liked it too. There was a nice pure.
Yeah, country
I mean,
radio
quality,
is
not
definitely
in,
definitely very different than it used to be.
Yeah, it's become very. Well, we talked about that. It's become very sort of commercialized and very glitzy Hollywood-esque.
Definitely.
You know, I mean, a lot of entertainment has gone that
Yeah,
direction.
and these are people who are singing about being cowboys that live in multi-million-dollar homes.
The irony is rich. You know,
Yeah.
you have to say, where's this coming from? Is it a true, authentic song? You know, I mean, not a song, but a meaningful country ballad, which they don't really. You don't hear a lot of those anymore, except when you have an independent artist like Bobby Lee Jones, who is here, or the Indian River, Clifford.
Yeah,
Keith
and that's
band.
something that your show does, is you bring voice to a lot of the local music
I
scene.
love to. I try to. Yeah, my the best I possibly can. Sometimes it's hard for musicians to come here and perform live because they have big bands with them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like full blown bands.
You're not
but-
going to have an orchestra here
Exactly.
in the back
Come
room
on
at
in and
Browseabout
everyone
Books.
share this microphone. But if you're able to pick up an acoustic or one or two, and I think that would be great.
Yeah.
I think people like to see it and they like to hear it live rather than me just playing a recorded track. If I have to do that, I will. But live is
Yeah,
better.
we've done that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know today's May the 4th, right?
Yeah, may
Star
the
Wars
4th be
Day.
with you. Star Wars Day, which is sad because the actor who played
Peter Mayhew.
Yeah, he just passed.
I still am a huge Star Wars kid. I grew up on them. I mean, I'm not as old as the original movies, but I grew up watching them
I need a Ninja
constantly,
Olympic
like
dealer.
every single week I would
Yeah,
watch
yeah?
them. Yeah, I was
Wow.
super. I used to work in a bookstore too, and I was so much of a nerd. I would read the Star Wars books that we had in the bookstore, and none of those are canon anymore since Disney bought Lucasfilm. But you're never a big Star Wars kid?
Oh, I was a huge Star. Yeah, I remember clearly. It was 79, wasn't it, when the first one came out, or was it 77? 75. I was 10 years old. So I loved seeing that, and the thrill of seeing that movie in the theater for the first time when really nothing had been made like that
Oh,
before.
yeah, it was incredible.
It was pretty wild, yeah.
And honestly, when George Lucas remastered the films, he took out a lot of the practical effects from the original movies, and a lot of people would think that's a terrible idea because the practical effects are genius. ILM, which is the studio that did all the practical effects for Star Wars, they were like cutting edge when that movie came out.
It was.
He just sort of CGI'd all of them. Now they don't look as good.
I remember never having that experience before in a theater, watching a film. You felt like you were literally there. You felt like you were sitting next to Han Solo, or you're being chased, by the Death Star. I mean, it felt like it was thrilling.
Yeah, and it was like a blockbuster. Like that was around the time that Jaws came out too, and those were both really some of the first blockbusters I would say in film history. Like everybody was talking about them. It would have been cool for me to live during that time. But
those movies were cool.
Yeah,
I know there was a lot going on in '70s. Well, I was just a kid, but there was gas shortage and energy shortage and Watergate and a lot of other things that
there's
probably
always
wouldn't
bad
be so
stuff
much
going
fun.
on,
There's
all
always bad
periods
stuff
of
going on.
history.
But you would have had a fun time at the movie theater because there were some great films. Close Encounters of the Third Kind was around that time period, which was another great film that was similar in that genre. There was Jaws, which was a really intense film at the time. Like
now, it's like okay to be a nerd. You get all the Marvel movies coming out. Star Wars is still around.
Yeah, they try to they make it glamorous.
Yeah,
a glamour nerd.
Yeah.
Whatever that would be.
Geeky's like popular now.
A glamorous geek.
Yeah, it's a good time to be a geek, man.
Yeah. But I mean, that's because there was a lot of art and involved in all this storytelling and I mean a lot of it started really with Star Trek. And there was a lot of great storytelling there and it sort of went forward.
And Star Wars is like almost all archetypes. Good versus evil, white, black.
Yeah, true.
Which makes it almost very predictable, but it's still a nice ride. Yeah,
but I think that the reason that those archetypes exist and thrive is because people relate to them, and they especially with story writing. We in a little bit we have an author, Jackson Coppley, who's going to get on the air with here, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about that. But I think people can connect to those archetypes because they're just timeless classic. Sections of the psyche that people go to, when they're looking for some type of reference point in their life.
Sometimes you're just having a bad day. You want to see good triumph evil.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Because when there was a movie I saw recently, I can't remember what it was, unfortunately, and the ending was just so unsatisfying because I think that the bad guy won. It was just like end of the movie. I'm like, what? How did that happen? They got away with it? Doesn't make any sense.
Have you ever watched Game of Thrones?
I have not.
Well, see, there's a lot of characters that become people's like very favorite characters, and they just kill them off like pretty unceremoniously.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's very jarring because that doesn't happen a lot. Like, it's almost like I've heard it references like plot armor before. Like the main character, in the back of your head, nothing bad's ever going to happen to them because they're the main character, and if they die in chapter 2 of this book, like what's the rest of the book going to be about? But Game of Thrones, they just kill everybody. It doesn't matter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there was a great show I watched called Boardwalk Empire, which was on for several years. It was an amazing show. It took place in Atlantic City in the 1920s and documented just, the corrupt, sort of gangster mentality that was in charge of the bootleg and whatnot. But they did the same thing. You would have these characters that sometimes would last 1 or 2 seasons that everyone, liked. And suddenly they would be shot in the head and dead like this. There was no and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens in that crazy life. But they would just take them out immediately, and there would really be very little recourse or discussion about it.
And then in shows like that, you find that your heart rate's actually going up because you never know.
Yeah, who's gonna make
die immediately.
Like everyone's got a short leash here because you're running a rough crowd with these.
It's definitely very different. I don't know if I could handle every show being like that, but every now and again, it's refreshing to see.
I think that's interesting. You should bring that up. I don't even know what the terminology is called for that. But there's another show that I like on HBO. Oh, what is it about? Ozark. Which is
that's very popular. I haven't watched that.
Great show. And they will sometimes also just exit a character out completely unexpectedly. Like wow, this person is suddenly dead because someone decided I've had enough, and they just they end the scene for them.
Yeah.
And then everyone just sort of moves on.
Yeah.
They
do that in soap operas too, but that's just because
they get an X amount of time.
Actor contracts and
they'll
stuff.
Have a little bit of X amount of time before they get on the air. So I think it's about 12:38. I know that we're going to be here until 1 o'clock, and we're getting ready to go on 12:40. But my friend Jackson Coppley was nice enough to come down here for our first sort of debut broadcast here from Browseabout Books. I've had fun talking to you.
No problem.
We don't normally we just get to have a little banter back and forth. We don't get to actually get you on the air.
Well, today was my day off, but I live 10-minute walk away, so I told you I'd come by and show up. I've lived here for a year, and I've never been inside of here.
What?
Yeah, which is a little disappointing. I lived in Lewes. out here in Delaware for almost 2 years. I lived in Lewes last year. This is a lot bigger on the inside than I thought it was.
See, I'm glad you're out here. The owner, Steve, is right here. So
Oh.
see, he's
I'm
giving
sorry
you
that I
money.
haven't been here yet.
No, he's. Hey, touche.
Thanks.
Do you are you a reader or do you
I
said-
worked in a bookstore for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I should read more than I do, but almost all my media is digital now. But
Well, I mean, yes, that defeats the purpose of having a three-dimensional.
I know
book.
a lot of people say the feel of the book in your hands is different, and I get that. And I do want to read more. During the summer, I have a deck on my roof. I'm gonna go up there, read a book. Hopefully, not get sunburned. And
Yeah, well, that's what
roll the
sunscreen's
dice.
for.
Roll the dice on the skin cancer for a good book.
But
Who
they
knows?
also have really cool. They have phenomenal toys and games here. There's slinkies floating.
I know, I
around
saw those
somewhere.
puzzles. My girlfriend loves puzzles. I might
They got
get her one.
puzzles. They have great old games like old school board games, which are a lot of fun. There's all types of phenomenal things here. Cards. There's coffee. There's soap. There's facial stuff. You should bring her here. Check it out.
Okay.
Yeah, more than just even though books are fine and great and enough for everyone. There's a lot more here to offer.
Real books never die, Michael.
That's right.
That's what that sign says right there.
That's all right. And see the little battery sign.
Yeah.
Unlike your digital
Oh,
content.
I get it. Oh,
you see
that's a
now?
good one.
Yeah. Because eventually we're like, oh my God, I got to charge up. And now with the book, you just open it up again.
Unless it's a Kindle, then you have to charge that.
Well, yes, but that's they're talking about a real book.
Yeah.
You see, that's
I do
the
prefer
one
real
there.
books. You're right. I'm gonna get back into it.
Well, listen, the next Saturday that you have off, if you ever have one off again, this is a regular thing.
Yeah. Well, next Saturday we're giving away a boat on the other station, so
Oh, nice.
I won't be here for that. But
afterward, they can pop down.
yeah,
sometime.
definitely. It's real close. I'll
Yeah,
be back.
Be fun. Have a little banter. Millennial Gen X banner.
Yeah.
as
Okay.
they call it.
All right, Michael.
I appreciate it. All
No
right, my
problem.
friend. Thank you. Have a good
Yeah,
rest of the week. All right. Jack, come on over here, Jack. So we got 15 minutes left. I really appreciate you popping down here. It's good to see you again. I think
Michael, good to
my
see
voice
you.
is starting to fade, so bear with me a little
I'll
bit.
try to pick it up.
Oh no, that's all right. We'll have to
All
keep it
right,
going.
but-
So I had you. You're an author.
Yes.
And you were on my other radio show.
Yes.
Which is on a different station, which is fine. It's 99.1 Radio Rehoboth. And you have a new book that just came out.
Yes, The Code Hunters. And it premiered this week, and the first people to have it are the people here at Browseabout.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
They have copies here now. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. First, I want to say congratulations on
Thank you very much.
your premiere show from
Yeah.
Browseabout.
Thank you.
And it is a great place. I'm following up on what the young man said. Young man.
Yes.
Yes, young
Extremely young.
millennial, right? Different breed of people.
Yeah.
So, but anyhow, it is a fine store. They have a lot here. And they're very good to local authors. They have a number of people who are residents of Rehoboth who write, and I think people will find some of their work very good. But I wanted to follow up on the previous discussion about Star Wars and the excitement of heroes and all of that, because I don't think I mentioned it in my last show with you, but I write a blog, and I'm currently focused on heroes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
So I've done research on Indiana Jones and on Star Wars characters and on James Bond and so forth. And every week I usually put out something else about one of these characters. They're just short 300-500 word essays about each one. But I think if somebody tunes into my website, which is my name, jacksoncoppley.com, they would enjoy some of these. Like, for instance, I have tidbits. Whenever George Lucas had his first movie that was popular, that was American Graffiti.
Yeah.
It was
Great film.
Very good film. And so on the success of that, he had two other scripts. He's a prolific imagination writer. And he had two other scripts he was pitching to the studios. And one was Star Wars. The other one was The Adventures of Indiana Smith.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Vaguely familiar. Yeah. And so Star Wars got the nod, and eventually there was after that was a huge success, he was vacationing in Hawaii, and he ran into his friend Steven Spielberg. And he was talking to Steven about this other thing they've been knocking around about the adventures of Indiana Smith. And I don't know in that conversation if Spielberg said, you know, George, if you just change it to Jones, I think we got a winner.
Yeah, that's right.
So
That's
the two
funny.
of them collaborated on that. But anyhow, back to my book. I got a review here, and if you have a little patience,
please,
yes,
absolutely, please do.
because it's a very good review, but it also talks a little bit. It's a good synopsis of the book. So, if for no other reason, I'd like to read it here.
Yeah, that sounds great.
First, I'm going to talk about the man who wrote it. Interesting fellow. I've never met him, but his name is John Walker, and he was one of the early Silicon Valley entrepreneurs that made it big with a company called AutoCAD. And that was back in the early 90s. When it went public, he cashed out and moved to all places, Switzerland.
Wow.
And he spends a lot of time reading books that interest him and writing reviews about them.
That's not, I remember AutoCAD, and I remember the CAD, which is, I believe is still existing. So it was
it still
design
exists.
software.
It still
yes.
exists.
It does.
Every architect uses
Yeah.
it. So car designers, it's
He must
really
have done very
big.
well if he.
Yeah. Well, he did well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess if you want to do that. But he's also a technologist. So what I'm going to read here has a few technical terms that might flash by some people, but don't let that bother you.
Okay. I'm looking to hearing this.
Okay, here it is. This is more of a synopsis of the book, and it starts out with, a team of expert cavers exploring a challenging cave in New Mexico in search of a possible connection to Carlsbad Caverns tumble into a chamber deep underground containing something which just should not be there. A huge slab of metal, like titanium, 24 feet square and 8 inches thick, set into the rock of the cave, bearing markings which resemble the pits and lands on an optical storage disk. No evidence for human presence in the cave prior to the discoverers, and dating confirms that the slab is at least 10,000 years old. There is no way an object that large could be brought through the cramped and twisting passages of the cave to the chamber where it was found. Wealthy adventurer Nicholas Fox, my hero, with degrees in archaeology and cryptology, gets wind of the discovery and pulls strings to get access to the cave, putting together a research program to try to understand the origin of the slab and decode its enigmatic inscriptions. But as news of the discovery reaches others, they begin to pursue their own priorities. A New Mexico senator sends his on-the-make assistant to find out what's going on and see how it might be exploited to his advantage. An ex-Army Special Forces operator makes stealthy plans. An MIT string theorist with a wide range of interests begins to see things in the tablet. A wealthy Texan sees the potential for wealth beyond his abundant dreams of avarice. A televangelist facing hard times sees the tablet as a way back to the top of the heap. So as the adventure unfolds, we encounter a group of fascinating characters. A World Health Organization scientist, an Italian violin maker with an eccentric theory of language, and his autistic daughter, and a Just the Facts police inspector. As clues are teased from the enigma, we visit exotic location experiencing harrowing adventures, finally grasping the significance of a discovery that bears on the very origin of modern humans.
And these are characters from the
book.
The book that you've written down.
They're all in there. It's a rich set of characters. And he finishes by saying, and I don't want to say it all because he beats the author up a little bit, not me, another one. He says, now you might be thinking this sounds like a Dan Brown thriller. And in a sense, you'd be right. But this is better than a Dan Brown thriller. thriller. He says, hey, it's his words, not mine.
Okay. Right on, I get it.
And he says that this is a gripping tale filled with complex and quirky characters. Unexpected plot twists, beautifully sketched locales, and a growing sense of wonder as the significance of the discovery is grasped. If anyone in Hollywood had any sense, they would make this into a movie instead of doing another Dan Brown sequel.
Yeah. Well,
Anybody in Hollywood listening to that? That's one person.
Yes, you have to come here and check that out. Because the film versions of the Dan Brown novels weren't. I didn't think they were that spectacular, but that's just my personal opinion.
The Da Vinci Code was very popular. Yeah, I have a little story about the Da Vinci Code. Ellen and I were one time in Milan, and most people don't know that in Milan is where the painting of the Last Supper is. So Da Vinci painted it in a little chapel in Milan, and it's vastly popular. You get tickets a long time in advance. It's becoming celebrated this year because it's the 500th anniversary of the death of Leonardo da Vinci. Nevertheless, once you're in there, you get a gander at it. And it's a wonderful thing to behold. But the rendition my mother had on her dining room was a little bit more detailed than this one. It's faded over the years.
Well, they did a big renovation though a few years ago, which made it even more intense than because it was a fresco. It was fading,
and it was not actually a fresco. A fresco, we learned, is paint that's put into the plaster as it dries. This was painted on top of the plaster using kind of, for the time, an experimental paint made out of eggs.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's called impasto.
Impasto.
It's wet on wet.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Believe it or not, it was a fine art minor for a while. But yes, go for it. Yeah, because you're right. I just said sort of was just because it's easier to say, well, it's a fresco. But yes.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, in Dan Brown's book, he makes use of the interpretation of what's seen on there.
Yeah.
Was that John to his right, Jesus is right, or was it Mary Magdalene? So anyhow, he draws on that, and when we left, they had a bookstore or a gift shop, and it had books in it, and Dan Brown's book had come out just the year before, and it was in every language imaginable in that bookstore, the Da Vinci Code. And this bookstore was run by the Vatican. They controlled this store, this remarkable treasure, and all of that. So time passes, and they make the movie of the Da Vinci Code, and the Vatican is rails against it because it portrays Jesus in a way that they would not want to see him portrayed.
Sure. Yeah.
And I thought about that, and I said, well, wait a minute. You had a bookstore that sold the thing. Now it's a movie. Do you think people don't read?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, wait.
We'll wait for the movie.
It's okay to read it. You just can't see it.
Right. Okay. Wait for the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So don't you have a book signing here today, as a matter of fact?
No. It's going to be a Memorial Day.
Oh, okay. That's right.
The Memorial Day weekend, so I might stop by and let you know how it's going that. But that's going to be at that time. But they have the book here, and it's available now for anybody that comes by, and if you buy it right now, I'll sign it. But
we're just saying right here. but someone could come by, buy the book, and then come back for your book signing.
Oh,
and you
absolutely.
could sign that for them as well.
Absolutely, bring it in.
Right on, and you'll have copies there at the book signing. Of course, you could sign that right there on the side. In the book, does it? There probably does, but if it's a spoiler alert, obviously we won't say it. But do you discover how this obelisk ends up in this cave and the meaning of this code in the first book, or is this something that has continued moving forward?
You can draw conclusions from what I give you.
I see.
And I'm going to leave everybody with their own conclusions. But yes, further ones will explore it more. And that's why some people who read this, I had one reader who mentioned that it was a lot like Chariots of the Gods. Now, that was not my intent exactly, but that was about super beings coming to Earth.
Yeah, which was written a long time ago,
A
early
long
70s,
time
if I
ago.
remember correctly.
Yeah.
And he presented that as it wasn't a fiction. He was like, "This is what
Right.
has happened. Here's
This
how the
is what's
pyramids are
really
explained."
happened.
Yeah, it was very
Yes.
controversial at the
And
time.
if you watch the Discovery Channel or the History Channel, they're all over stuff
yeah,
like that.
they're
you
like,
know,
no,
aliens.
that's not how this.
Well,
that's
no.
however, but it's very
no,
interesting.
but I
Evolution.
find all of that, just like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, just like E.T., it's a fascinating story. I like to draw upon suppositions like that because I think the duty of an author that's going to be writing a book like mine is to let each reader interpret it as they want it. I think, matter of fact, it was Dan Brown. He said, if you're lucky, you'll sell 1 million copies, but you're going to have 1 million people seeing it 1 million different ways.
Yeah, that's good. It's going to be a very satisfying feeling
Yeah, it
as
is.
the artist.
Oh, well, it is. And to get feedback from people you don't know who like it and say that it inspired me to this or it did that it's great.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you stopping over here. So that's here is a Memorial Day
is.
weekend.
Yeah,
Next-
Memorial Day weekend, the Saturday afternoon of Memorial Day weekend. I'm here from 2 to 5, and I look forward to seeing lots of people come by.
Yeah.
And
we'll be here too. We'll be here
And
till
you
1
will
o'clock.
be? That's right.
You already signed my copy, but so
I did,
yeah.
didn't I? And, you know, by the way, Michael, I have to remind you, that was the
That's
very
right.
first copy.
The very first copy, the very
Yes.
first signature. I'm very excited about. I'm gonna finish reading that book, and I'm looking forward to it. Definitely will have you back on the air again soon. Where can people go on where your blog is? Where online?
Okay, again, it's my name, JacksonCoppley.com, JacksonCoppley.com.
All right.
And you go there, and the blog is one of the menu items. Hit it and read and enjoy. And if you do go, I encourage you to leave your email address so I can keep you up to date on it.
That's a good plan. Good plan. Appreciate that. Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. Well, there goes my mic. Have a great rest of the week, and I will see you next Saturday.
All right.
All right, folks. I don't have a visual here, so I have no idea. But I'm assuming that we're checking out the camera here. We're pretty much, we got 3 minutes left. I'm going to go ahead and call it a day because I'm losing my voice. Oh, wait, there's a sign here that was brought in here. It says, oh, Steve has brought this in. A child who reads will be an adult who thinks. The man who never reads lives only once. George R. Martin. Thank you for that. That's phenomenal. It's important. We're going to be getting more of these. I will be back here next Saturday and Saturday henceforth. I think we had a really good time. Did everyone have a good time? I thought it went really well. You guys went okay? Good. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for joining me here on Coastal A&E. I'm your host, Michael Sprouse. I will see you next Saturday. I'm going to go out and try to figure out how to make a mint julep and catch another derby. Hey, Roman, thank you very much for joining me on the air, my friend. Listen, everyone, I'm out of here. Have a great rest of the week. Do something creative. I'll talk to you soon.